Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 63 of Superannuated Starman. Is it 63?
I don't know.
6-7?
Oh my god. It is 63. Okay, yeah, I was right. Great.
Welcome back.
Yes, I'm your host, Sean Ryan. Today I'll be joined by Chris Duerksen. Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good, not too bad. How about you? Cory, how are you? Sean, how's it going?
Well, who do you want to answer?
Well, he preemptively made sure that he addressed us both
I don't like this.
because you kind of got on his ass the last time.
I didn't do anything.
Let's go to the playback for that.
You yell at him because he screws up the rotation like he just did.
Well, all of you out there, I hope you're doing great. We're currently in the middle of a snowstorm. Last month, we discussed the film Terminator 2 for our holiday episode, and we said that we're going to throw in some discussion about the video games that spawned that franchise.
And we
Or
did.
from that franchise. And yeah, it just didn't.
I was thinking about Terminator too much.
Well, it was great. So I hope you all enjoyed that 2-ish hours of us talking about that amazing film.
Is that how long that one
good.
was?
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was a very, very long episode.
That drug out way longer than I thought it was going to. You guys know so much about Terminator. It is ridiculous.
Let's just watch movies from now on. Sean, you want to talk about Demolition Man instead of doing this game?
Oh my god, I would love to do a spin-off where we talk about films, but new year, new episode, and on today's show, we're going to be discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project for the NES. A fantastic arcade beat 'em up that Chris has been saying we should do an episode for like a year now, right?
No, dude, it's been
Yeah,
longer than that.
dude, since the
He wanted us to do
beginning.
he wanted us to do a back-to-back when we did Turtles in Time, and that was like episode 6.
Oh, yeah. That was a long time ago.
This was on my list of ones to do since we brainstormed this podcast from the very beginning. This was like one of the top 3 games, the first 3 things that I wrote down.
Well, with that said, sit back and enjoy this music, and when we return, we will discuss the history of this amazing game. The third Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle installment on the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Manhattan Project, was developed and published by Konami. The game was released in Japan on December 13th, 1991 under the name Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the Manhattan Project. The reasoning for this is because the first NES game was titled Legend of the Radical Ninja Turtles. And fun fact, that first NES game was the first piece of Ninja Turtles media released in the entire country. The game released in North America a few months later in February of 1992, and that's it as far as release dates because the game was never released in the PAL regions.
Huh.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Uh-uh.
I didn't know that until this little go around either.
And I think I need to put some context surrounding the release of this game. The Super Famicom released in Japan on November 21st of 1990, and in North America as the Super Nintendo in August of 1991. This put TMNT 3's release near the end of the NES's life cycle, while the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom was serving up that 16-bit superiority to the NES.
Oh, so they just didn't bother putting it out because it would have been a waste of time.
That's a part of it. But nevertheless, the game was well received, winning the Best NES Game of 1992 by EGM and awarded Best Overall Game from Nintendo Power Award 92. But the Japanese magazine Famitsu, known for their harsh reviews, only gave the game a 27 out of 40.
Wow, what a jerks. Is EGM still in business?
I don't know.
Let's find out.
Yeah, let us know.
Their last print issue was 2014, and then the last time they've updated their website was 2024, and they've only updated it like 4 times in that year.
Brutal. Despite the Super Nintendo dominating the scene, the game sold relatively well. Though I couldn't find any concrete sales data, it's estimated that the game sold between 1.5 and 2 million units. A lot of this has to do with TMNT being a massive cultural phenomenon in the US. The game was released between the show's 5th and 6th seasons, which, by the way, went on to have a grand total of 10 seasons, running from December of 1987 to September of 1996. The game's title, The Manhattan Project, has nothing to do with the World War II research and development program that produced the first nuclear weapons, and instead references a major plot point in the game where the Turtles' nemesis, the Shredder, has once again kidnapped April O'Neil and had turned all of Manhattan into a giant floating island, as seen on the cover of the North American box art. And on the topic of the box art, there is a Triceratops prominently displayed on the left side of the box, despite never showing up in game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So weird. The box art was so good, though.
The box art is amazing. And with that title, though it's never referenced in the original show, the 2012 Turtles TV series had a two-part episode in the second season called, you guessed it, The Manhattan Project. And with that, I don't really have too much else to add. There's not a lot of history on this game, so I'll close it out there, and when we come back, we'll discuss our memories of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project.
Alrighty, so this was my favorite Nintendo game as a kid, and my favorite Turtles game. I had this, like, obviously I got this after TMN 2, but I had no idea this came out after the Super Nintendo was out. Like, I just thought this was the forgotten Ninja Turtles game that nobody knew about, and I was the only person that knew that actually had this game, and I had this game even before I moved out to Homer and stuff. Like, this was one of my first games I ever got, and I played a lot of it. This was my go-to game that I played, like, when I stayed home sick from school. Like, and I'm talking like between the ages of like 6 and 8. This was legit one of my first Nintendo games.
I miss Bob Barker.
I played it all the time. Why?
Because staying home sick from school, you get a Sprite, you watch The Price is Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the price is right, man.
Oh my god, yep. I stayed in bed and played Nintendo. And this was one of the first games I heard about that a kid at school, because, like, this was not a short game. At least, like, for me, like, this game's at least a couple hours long.
It took me like 3 to do it.
Yeah, and like a couple hours long if you were doing well. And this was one of those first games I tried the trick where if you just pause the game, like, leave it on all night, you could, like, play it again in the morning. I heard that trick from Lewis. I don't know if you remember Lewis.
I have no idea who that is.
He moved out to Broadlands, but he was from the same neighborhood that I grew up in Urbana, and then he moved out to Broadlands years after I did. But he told me, he's like, yeah, like, I just leave my Nintendo on all night so that way I can still keep playing it. And I was like, that is a genius idea. This was the first game that I tried that with, and when I woke up, it was glitched out.
Oh no.
Nintendos were great for that. But yeah, I really don't know what else to say. Like, I loved this game as a kid. I put so many hours into it.
I just remember Dee Snider actually had I don't know if you've ever heard that interview where he's talking about how he's playing Legend of Zelda and he left it on overnight, and I think like one of his kids or something turned the console off, and he was like about to beat the game too, and he absolutely lost it.
When we first got our NES, I don't know what happened, but we didn't leave it on overnight. Well, at least I didn't leave it on overnight, but I know that the next day it didn't work. And we had to go and we had to go and return and exchange it because it just stopped working completely.
Really? Like it killed your NES or the game?
The NES, and it was, I think, the first Double Dragon game was one of the first games that we were playing. That's what's in my mind, but who knows if that's true. But yeah, we're like so excited. We're like, all right, the Atari, that's old news. We have the NES, that's what we're gonna play now. And we played for like a day, and then the next day it was done. It stopped working.
Oh wow. I'm so sorry. Wait, how long have you had it at that point?
24 hours.
Oh wow, so it was brand
It was
new and
brand new, like pulled out of the box.
okay, that must have been a glitch. I've never heard of that happening. Like when I left mine on overnight and come back to it, like like half the screen, like half the stage would be like pixelated and X's and O's and weird.
Yeah, it
just
looked like
glitchy
somebody kicked
code.
the console the way it looked.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you, Corey? Do you have any history with this game, or is this something you never really got to play?
No, I don't remember if I even had this one in the arcades. Really, this wasn't like a big title. As we said, it was like a really late release to the Nintendo series, and then I did not have an NES for the majority of my life, so like I don't think any of my friends own this one either. I remember seeing it and I knew it was like part of the franchise, but it's nothing that I really played.
Well, and Sean, you said this game came out what 91? Sean and I were both 8. Corey, you were what, like 2?
For even still, like I just don't think it had like a lot of manufactured cartridges to like be picked up like aftermarket either.
And I remember, well, when I got this game, I think we got from like Kmart. Like remember, like back in the awesome cases, game cases where like it had like the wall full of the
Yes,
artwork for
yeah.
Yeah,
and you pulled your little tab for it or whatever. I had never even saw any advertisement for this game
Toys
at
R
all,
Us did that too.
which I found out later. Like, yeah, I was doing some research for this episode. I found out like they did not promote this game at all because by the time this game came out, Turtles in Time came out 6 months after this, and they were just promoting the hell out of that and just completely ignored this one. They didn't want to oversaturate the market with Ninja Turtle stuff, so they just focused on Turtles in Time.
Thinking about it, I wonder if there was like some contractual agreement that they had to produce an NES title. And so they did, and then just didn't really promote it all that well. Because, like you said, they had Turtles in Time coming out. And this game never actually hit the arcades. So this
Right.
is a standalone only for the NES.
So what I read was that this was built on the engine from Turtles in Time 2. They had already like Turtles in Time 2, the arcade home release was such a huge success that they started moving forward with this game
What do
right
you
away.
mean Turtles in Time 2?
I think he means
Sorry,
Ninja
not Turtles in Time.
too.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game
Ah,
home
got
release
it, got it.
was such a huge success that they used that engine to build this one, and they already had the game in development and pretty much had the foundation down when they started Turtles in Time. So they didn't want to just throw the work away for this one, so they just kind of moved forward with it, but it was not a priority anymore. But it turned out to be so good.
Exactly. I'm glad that they kept it because I also owned this game as a kid, as well as the first one. And while I never beat that game, the original, I did beat this one, but only with the help of the Game Genie. Did either of you guys have a Game Genie?
No.
My neighbor had one, and then we had a Game Shark too.
I never had a Game Shark when I was a kid. But this game is a game that we got later on after I got my Nintendo, and my memories aren't super solid on this title, but I do remember playing it a lot. Usually as like a palate cleanser for Zelda 2, whenever I got stuck there, I typically just pull that out and put this in. And I also played this 2-player with my youngest brother. And as always, I was Leonardo, hands down, best turtle, period, done, end of story.
Mm-mm.
Should we explain to the youth that may be listening what a Game Shark or a Game Genie is?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, why don't you hit it up, Corey?
Oh god, who made Game Genies? basically they were. So these were all run on cartridges. So what a Game Shark or a Game Genie was essentially something that you inserted into your console and then you put the game in, and it was basically like this cheat engine where it would run like the dev options, so you could give yourself like immortality or infinite lives or whatever, and it was a way to basically open up like the developer menu and play these video games, and just use cheat codes basically that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. Apparently Codemasters made the first Game Genie.
Yeah, Codemasters was the one that made it, and I think Galoob was the one that produced them, if I'm remembering correctly.
Did you just make that word up?
Galoob? No,
Galoob?
no, they were a real.
Lube.
Somebody look that up.
Tony
What
Galoob?
was Galoob? Galoob. Galoob.
Galoob Toys.
Yeah. See, I knew it. Yeah.
It
So,
also made, best known for creating Micro Machines, which also probably nobody knows what that is anymore either.
I had so many Micro Machines. You
Oh, me
can't
too.
buy
I
that sort
love
of thing
them.
now. That's a choking hazard.
I love
I never
Galoob.
thought about that.
And it was acquired by
I
Hasbro in
can't
1998.
guarantee that's why they don't make them anymore, because they were probably banned as choking hazards.
And when it got acquired by Hasbro in 98, it was the third largest toy maker in the US.
Oh, there you go.
It was huge.
I remember that there was a big controversy. I think Nintendo sued
Oh.
Galoob over it.
Yeah, it was a Supreme Court case back in the 90s.
Wow.
Was it because of the reverse Nintendo was suing everybody. They sued the people that
It was
wisdom
a
tree.
copyright issue, I think.
Hmm.
Nintendo was saying they were infringing on their copyright, but yeah, I think it was reverse engineering where they're saying they were infringing on their copyright of their system.
It was like the
And the Supreme
Wild
Court told
West
them to stuff
back
it.
then. Yeah, Nintendo was getting shut down constantly.
Didn't everything have to be licensed by Nintendo too?
Yeah, so back then, in order to develop a game for Nintendo, you had to get their dev kit. You still do. You have to get their dev kits to make things for them.
So the fact that this company was putting out an attachment to the machine that you'd put your game
Yeah.
into, and then it would process the game before it played the game.
They lost their minds because they said it was copyright.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah, totally.
Not only that, but you had like inside your Nintendo, there's just a chip, and all it does is it just verifies that the cartridge that's in there is a legitimate Nintendo from Nintendo Japan and Nintendo America cart, not a third party one. And if it comes back and it's like, nope, it's not a real cart, you'll just get that infinite death loop where it just constantly flickers on and off, like the reset. And so I remember there was one where these guys developed a cart that would literally like zap. It sends like a small voltage specifically to that chip to temporarily disable it so that the game will just continue running.
Huh.
And like you said, Cory, Nintendo lost their minds.
Yeah, well, because especially this is basically the start of the home market for consoles. So there were like no regulatory boards or anything else in that kind of like the ESRB or anything. So a lot of the times these companies were just suing each other constantly because everyone was trying to get in on the action and no one had any rules for anything.
It was definitely the Wild West out there when everything was first starting.
I mean, we talked about it in the past where the guy made the Noah's Ark game where he basically just ripped Doom and he made it into Noah's Ark, and they like wouldn't sue him because he was making religious games basically, and Nintendo didn't want the bad publicity.
Was that Wisdom Tree?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Well, back to Turtles. When I think about my memories of that game, obviously I'm going to think about what I played the most, and that's that first stage at the beach. And that stage, even then, it was something that stood out to me because it just felt so vibrant and alive, despite not a lot actually going on in that level. And it really felt like I was playing a piece of the cartoon.
Yes, that's why I loved this one as a kid.
Yeah, it's so good. And I never owned the second game, which we discussed. That's the port of the first arcade game. And while looking at the game now, it's absolutely great and really does capture what that cartoon looked like. And I think this game does an even better job of that.
100%. I was gonna say because I just remember it like even as a kid, like the stages and all the boss varieties and the foot soldiers and everything. It was just so in line with the cartoon that it made me feel like I was like when I couldn't watch the cartoon because back when I was a kid, you just couldn't have things on demand, so you had to wait for the show to come on. And when I wanted that Ninja Turtles itch, I played the game.
It's just so good. It just definitely captures that feel of the cartoon. But when I was younger, I never got past the fourth stage on my own, and my brother and I only got to the Technodrome a handful of times, maybe just once. Now that I really think about it, this is without cheating, of course. And I felt like this game was so hard as a kid, but it was still a game that I definitely kept coming back to. And obviously, so did you, Chris.
Konami, man.
They knew what they were
They're
doing.
great games. Yep.
Konami's got no chill.
Well, guys, do either of you have anything else for the memory section?
Oh man, I'm sure I'll just interrupt you if something comes to mind.
Well, that works. With all that said, let's take another break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss what it was like to replay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 The Manhattan Project today in 2026. Stick around.
Alright, welcome back. We are talking about our modern day playthrough of Team 3 for the NES.
Are you having a stroke?
A little bit. Listen, man, it's cold outside. There's like 1.5 feet of snow out there. Anyway, so yeah, the modern day playthrough with this one, it was a little rough. It's typical Konami fashion. It's really well done. Everything looks nice. This to me looks like you would think of a retro game. Everything is kind of washed out. There's not like really a lot of vibrant. It's
It's
a
vibrant
bright
for the time.
Well, I was gonna say it's a bright color palette, but it looks like it looks dated.
It looks a little muted.
Everything. What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of muted, like it's like a weird pastel kind of color palette. But music's good. A lot of fun. Controls are functional and entertaining. I got through a lot of this game just by throwing people because
Yep.
open combat just became too hard, honestly.
Are you talking about using your up B move where
Yeah, to just kind of like toss, or whatever direction it was,
down
just to
B,
toss
whatever.
people and kill them.
I did that too a lot.
Yeah, like I just the main thing I was using was just tossing people constantly because I was just tired of trying to fight and losing.
Now the toss we should mention. Anybody familiar with the arcade, the second game? The toss was one of the improvements made compared to the second game, where the second game you just had your hit and your heavy hit, whereas this game had a toss, but then also each turtle had its own special move. Whereas like the second game, all 4 turtles were exactly the same. This one, each one had their own slightly different. Did they have different stats, or is it just like different length?
I think that was Turtles in Time that had the stats differences.
But at least this one had they had different. Their specials were different. Whereas you had like Leonardo, his special, which each time you used your special, it took a slice of your life.
Yep, the traditional side-scrolling beat-em-up fashion. You
Yep.
sacrifice your hit points for your special attack.
Yeah, Leo's was a stationary spin attack. Michelangelo's was like a backwards yoga kick jump thing.
Yoga kick jump.
Donatello's was a rolling like smash attack, and then Raphael's, which was the best, was like a flying tornado.
So they did have different stats.
I thought they did.
Oh, did they have different stats in this one?
They
Okay.
did. So Leo's the most well balanced.
Yeah,
Raph,
Michelangelo's got the highest hit points, and then Raphael's the fastest. Is that what it is?
Raph hits the hardest, so it's mostly damage.
Okay.
That's the thing. Damage and reach. So
Reach. Yeah.
Leo is the most well balanced. Raphael's got the shortest reach, but the highest damage. Donatello has the largest reach and medium damage. And then Michelangelo has a medium to short reach, the lowest damage of all of them. But he's just ever so slightly faster.
Okay, so it's got to be Turtles in Time then, where he's got the most hit points, because that's what they did.
I think so.
But yeah, I'm hesitant to say that I enjoyed this. It was like a fun kind of like kitschy way to pass the time, but I don't have any special place in my heart for this one. And as far as turtle games go, like Turtles in Time blows this one out of the water for me. So
100%.
I really don't have.
But you're comparing apples to oranges.
I'm not though. I mean, they're different systems, but they're the same game. Like they're side-scrolling beat 'em ups with the exact same characters by the same company.
That's like comparing, a Fiat to Lamborghini.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
But I gotta side with Cory on this one, where you're not really comparing apples to oranges. It's really apples to apples here, because, like you said, it's just a different system. But it's also
Okay, you're comparing a crab apple to a Fuji apple.
If we were talking about comparing the original Gauntlet to, say, Gauntlet Dart Legacy on the GameCube, I would say that's like a completely different title because of all the advancements that have been made. We're talking about a time gap of what, 18 months maybe? It's not like it's a huge difference here.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, that's why this one was kind of like left behind, because it was only a 6-month gap in time between releases.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I think the reason this one was left behind is not necessarily due to it being a bad title or anything. It's just like we've said, the worldwide release of the Super Nintendo more or less just buried this, because why release something on an old system when you can plan for the future? So
yep.
I think this one was just like you said, it's kind of the home remaster of the arcade port, so it's kind of like a lot of what we've seen already. It looks nice, it plays perfectly well. I don't think it's anything special.
I will admit, even playing this in a modern way, this game is very I don't know what's the word for it, like glitchy, flashy, like the screen kind of blinks a lot.
Well,
I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Seizure-inducing.
That's a problem with the limitation of the NES. There's that sprite flicker, because you can only have so many sprites on the screen at the same time.
And they crammed them into this game.
Yeah, so like what Cory I think is trying to get at is that the game is so similar. Well, similar and different, because obviously Turtles in Time has a lot of enhancements that the Manhattan Project doesn't, but you have Manhattan Project coming out at the end of the NES's life cycle, where they have basically learned everything. Near the end, they've learned so much about this console that they're able to put all these tricks in there and make it look really good. Whereas Turtles in Time came out closer to the beginning of the SNES life cycle, so they're still trying to figure some things out. They don't necessarily have it dialed in.
Well, they had more processing power and everything else to play with. They had more flexibility with the machine, which made it look nicer and everything.
And the colors popped and the sound.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What have you? Great. I mean, Turtles in Time is a great game, but I just think that this one was like, okay, here's the third iteration of a Ninja Turtles game. here's the most polished version of what we can do on the NES, but it's literally like the third time's the charm copy. Like it's
Yep.
nothing I haven't seen before with the first two iterations. It's just the nicest version. Whereas you get to the SNES and it's like, okay, well now the colors look better. They've got better sound files. Like the hitboxes have been refined. Like it's a better product overall. And like to me this one is like, okay, well why bother with it when you have Turtles in Time? And it doesn't have the nostalgia factor that the other ones have, because I played two in the arcade and I played one on the home console market. So like, and honestly, one looks wildly different from this, and that was the one that had the
Right, yeah.
overworld. So it's like you're just, this one to me is kind of like the weird middle child that kind of just gets buried in the achievements of the others. So it's functional, it's nice looking. It became a dentist. You know what I mean? Like no one cares.
It became a dentist?
Yeah, like you've got that kid in the family where it's like, oh, Bob became a dentist. He's living quietly with his 2.5 children.
Oh man, if I became a dentist, my parents would be
There's nothing wrong with him, but he's nothing like he's not interesting.
Brutal. Chris, what are your thoughts about?
I'm sorry,
replaying
all
the
you
game today?
dentists out there.
Well,
I will admit, I have ways too much nostalgia for this game, so I will never not appreciate this game. Like I said, this was one of my
fine.
favorites as a kid.
It's a good title. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
No,
it's
not
just
yeah.
dentist.
It does flicker a lot. It is definitely the upgraded version of the arcade. The second one, it was perfect for a kid like me who did not get a Super Nintendo for a very long time. So on my Nintendo, when this came out and this was new, and I loved Ninja Turtles so much as a kid, this game checked every box for me as a kid. I loved this game as a kid. So I still love it as an adult. It's still fun. This is one that I still play by myself. I like when I load this up. I was looking through my old save files from the last time I was playing it a few years ago. I beat this one a few times for this episode just because I really like this game. But my third playthrough, I started using save files just to kind of, I don't know, dissect it. And I noticed like on boss fights, it's kind of weird. Like I would think the boss would act this exact same way to the exact same situation every time, but it doesn't. Every time I reload, like hit by hit, like there'd be times where I was fighting Shredder. One load in, I would load in, and he'd like hit me right away, and another load in, he'd like take a step back instead. And even when I did things the exact same things back to back, his reaction would still be different every time. And I just thought that was interesting for such an old game. And I don't know, like I don't know how programming works, but from my dumb point of view, I'm like, that's kind of impressive. The fact that the game is that random, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's just literally like you said, it's random. It's a random number generator. Essentially, that whenever it starts, it's like, all right, I'm going to do one of these 6 things. And
because I was really trying to like, and I suppose the reason I should mention the reason I was trying to do that is because I was trying to figure out patterns. Because there's a lot of games that you guys introduced me to where, as long as you figure out what the pattern is for, you can figure out like when the boss will hit you or how the boss will react to something. That's what I was trying to do with this, and it just didn't work. And that kind of impressed me a little bit because I don't know, made me think. I don't know, maybe the game is dumber than I thought it was because if it is just random, I mean, there's nothing that smart with being random, but it was neat.
well, by making it random, it does going to introduce that variety that no playthrough is ever going to be the same.
Yeah, 100%. Because like I was trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, like if I just walk backwards until Shredder gets closer and then hit him, will I be able to get free hits in this? And no, it doesn't. It definitely adds a little feeling of, FU also because like it is luck. There's a lot of this game that is just dumb luck.
Yeah, there's definitely RNGesus looking out for you to get through this game.
Yes.
I played this on my Switch with the Cowabunga collection, and I want to comment and say that I too got this game very late. And like, I didn't get my Super Nintendo until I was 10, and that was like 1994. So it had been out for a few years by then. So this is definitely welcome in my household because, like you, I love the Ninja Turtles. They were such a big part of my childhood. And as I said earlier in my memory section, the beach, that stage is literally burned in my brain. So when I picked this up after not having played it for so many years, it was just so easy to just kind of fall back into those routines. And like Cory said, the way to play this game is to flip all the enemies. Just go ahead and toss them because you're going to one shot them. Well, for the most part.
Yep.
And I definitely feel like any kid playing this game back in the day definitely got their money's worth out of this title. And on that, I'm really glad that this was an original game for the NES and not a port. So it doesn't have that insane level of difficulty. And I feel that it's pretty fair overall, with some exceptions like Leatherhead. Screw Leatherhead. He was not a fair fight. That was really, really hard. And the majority of my deaths. So I think, Chris, I think I told you in Discord, I died 26 times overall on that first playthrough.
Yeah. I was planning on keeping track of mine, and I lost track. All I know is that I used every single continue that I had. So however many deaths that is. But I wasn't keeping track of my lives because you can earn lives by getting points.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was tallying things as I was.
Leatherhead's the dude on the sewer one, right? With the gun.
gator. Did he have?
I don't think he
Did he
has
have
a
a gun?
gun.
He's
I don't
shooting
remember.
at you, doesn't he? He's a
He has spears.
alligator. No,
Spear
dude,
gun.
alligator, right in
Yeah.
the sewer.
Yeah, well, I think
Spins at you.
I think he's a cross.
He's got a gun. He's got a shotgun.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I just didn't remember that exactly.
He fires 3 pellets at you.
Well, regardless, that fight was absolutely awful. But
Who's the creepy dude on the roof with that looks like some sort of turtle bird?
It's Toka.
yeah, that's Toka.
Toka and Razor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Razor
Which, yeah,
is
I
the
love-
wolf, and Toka is the snapping turtle.
Which I love because that's from, for all the turtle fans out there, that's from Secret of the Ooze. Those two bosses, which were so awesome to see in this game because they were not in the arcade game. So it was really cool to see them in the in this game, and I don't remember seeing them in the animated show. So like Toka and Razor were an addition from Secret of the Ooze, which was such an awesome movie.
It definitely was.
I think my favorite stage was probably Toka, just because the giant Foot Clan, like
Man,
the neon sign in the
Yes.
background.
Yep.
you
So cool.
literally stole that. I was about to talk about it. I was talking about
my
the.
bad.
No, it's perfectly fine. Talking about the bosses, man. I think again they were mostly fair, but Leatherhead, screw him. And the Bebop fight. That isn't great either. Where he has the spinning ball and chain on his head for some weird reason.
Exactly, and that I never remember the thing on his head was never in any of the shows. Was never in any. Well, Bebop and Rocksteady were never in any of the movies either. But that was just such a weird thing to have on his head.
Yeah, super weird.
But I did think it was cool that the truck that he's driving shows up in. Oh no, I'm thinking that shows up in Shredder's Revenge.
I don't know.
Who do you think the most terrifying Mutant Turtle boss is? Like, if they were real things, like, what would be the most terrifying creature for this to be a real one? My vote's for Krang, honestly.
I was gonna say Krang as well. Yeah, a disgusting brain, like
A brain in like a cyborg body,
Yeah.
like it's so gross. He reminds me of what is it? Is it Modo or Modoc?
yeah,
From
the floating
Marvel.
head.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so bringing it back, that fight with Toka on the rooftop, it's great. Like you were talking about that giant electric Foot Clan sign, and he punches you up into it. I thought that was really fun, but he does this weird like hopping attack where he gets close to you and then just tries to eat you, which I thought was
Yeah.
again pretty unique and pretty fun. And I also like the usage of a shield. So if you try to do a jump kick, he pulls up a shield, which he never did in the film or anything like that. But he's the only character that does that. So he'll pull up a shield to block you, whereas like other bosses or even foot soldiers will punch you and send you flying to the other end of the screen, which is insanely annoying.
The first fight against Shredder was a standout because he kind of has the same moves that you do. He kind of has the exact same moves as you. He's got his little swipe and he's got his little jump kick, but then he also throws you. He has a down B as well, and he chucks you across the stage.
That was a really good fight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I want to talk about the visuals of this game. So, like Cory mentioned, it's a little muted, which I'm not a huge fan of. But one thing that really struck me looking at this with a modern eye was that it has that similar look to Super Mario Brothers 3, where the HUD at the bottom of the screen takes up like it feels like a third or maybe it's just a fourth of the screen, but it seems massive, which I'm not a huge fan of. It does allow for more detail in everything else because you have this section blocked off. I would have liked to have seen more of this stage and less of that.
You know what? That HUD also might be a data saving technique. We didn't play the game, but I remember talking to you about Zero Tolerance. I remember how we were talking about how the screen for Zero Tolerance was so small. And then we looked into it and found out that in order to not crash the console, essentially, they had to like squeeze down the frame. So they put that static image of like your character's
That's amazing.
like stat block basically. So like it might just be the fact that like this was already because you can see the screen tearing like anytime you walk forward. So the HUD on the bottom might just be them trying to conserve memory.
That's a really good point.
Well, and also this was built on the same engine as the arcade port, which also had that HUD on the bottom. I never even thought of it as a hindrance because to me it was just like that stamp is the same. It gave the same aesthetic as the game before it, so it just kind of carried over to me. It would have been weird without it.
That's kind of a negative, almost in my opinion, because like we were saying, it feels more of a continuation than something
Yeah.
new and original. But it is a side-scrolling beat 'em up, and it's a very common genre. But still talking about the look of everything, despite the colors not being as vibrant as I remember them being, I think the sprites themselves are beautiful. They are really well done, and like I said, it really just strikes me like it could have been the plot to an episode on the show.
Mm-hmm. And the little clips in between, in between levels and stuff were nicely animated and
I
I
had
don't know.
little banter pieces.
Yeah, and they match the style of the cartoon so well, and the toys and everything. Like it fit right into the turtle universe for
It does.
8-year-old me. It was so perfect.
I think the length of the game actually goes on a little too long for my taste. Like I was saying,
I would agree.
back in the day, you're definitely getting your money's worth out of this game, but it's so long. The levels being long is great. You get to travel really far into each of these levels, but if the game had ended with the first Shredder fight, I would have been more than happy.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I did beat this game as a kid. I don't remember beating it solo. I remember beating it with friends. But having friends over for that long of a time without your parents walking in and making you go outside or do something else was impossible.
That was
Like
tough as a kid.
yeah, like you couldn't just sit down for 2 hours with your friends and play a game and just stare at a screen for 2 hours. Like that was unheard of. This is why like that was one of those games where I tried to like pause the game and just leave it on all night so that way I could keep going with it because it was just too long of a game to not have like a passcode or something to pick up where you left off.
And another aspect where it just kind of felt like it was dragging on because stage 8, the Krang spaceship, felt really similar to the Technodrome.
It felt just like the Technodrome, yeah. And I mean, I will admit though, I do like the variety in stages. How you went from Miami to the streets of New York, and the streets of New York, like it gives you that feeling of the second arcade game, or I mean, the first arcade. You know what I mean? The second game arcade port.
Gotcha.
It reminded me of those levels, and then so did the sewer. So it kind of had like throwbacks to the previous game, which I'm sure is probably them just reusing resources. But by the time you move on and you get to the Technodrome, and then you take the giant elevator up to the rooftops, and then you're going through there, like it did have nice variety, but it drug out.
Cory, you were about to say something?
Was I? Oh, we were talking about leaving consoles and stuff on, and I was just so glad that Sega had like a save system. And the only thing that sucks about that is that those batteries that are in those cartridges are they are not meant to last that long. So a lot of those are completely like ruined now.
Yeah, that is one unfortunate aspect of our hobby here.
I've actually heard the same thing about like Super Nintendo games. Apparently, there's a battery in a lot of those carts where
Yeah, in order to save the game, they have a small lithium battery in them, and they're designed to last for like 15 years. So
Well, I just saw an article and I meant to send it to you, Sean. It was a month ago or so, but like apparently like that timeline on these games, like if they're still in package, those batteries are dying off permanently. Apparently, like if you don't play the cart, it dies.
They're really easy to replace, though.
Oh, okay, that's good then.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's literally a plastic shell, and you pop it open. But
Cool.
it's one of those tedious things where like I remember having, even as a kid, having a copy of Pirate's Gold, and it had like a defective battery in it, and so this is like 1996, and I couldn't save the damn game because the battery was broken. So here's this like kind of RPG adventure game, and it's a
You
12-hour
good.
thing.
You
Yeah, they got real. I got real good at starting that game over because there's no way I could play it.
Oh my God! On a similar note, when I first turned 18 and moved out, I barely had enough money to buy my first PlayStation. Was it PlayStation
2.
2? PlayStation 2 that had Grand Theft Auto 3.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the PlayStation 2 from a buddy and the game, but I didn't have any money for a memory card. So for months, I got real good at like just playing that first island and like that first
I might lose my mind if I had to keep
Oh my
playing the
God,
intro
yeah.
cinematics over and over again.
Yep. Oh man.
Well, with that, I think we're ready to move on. So stick around. We're going to come back with our final thoughts on this great game. Welcome back, everyone. Like I said before we took our break, this is going to be our last section, the final thoughts, where we discuss what we think about the game in its entirety. Is it worth replaying again? Is it something that we're just going to shelve and never look at? For me, you know what? First and foremost, Leonardo is the best turtle. I'm going to get that out of the way.
Michelangelo.
Raphael.
Nope. The game itself runs pretty well with some caveats. There's slowdown and sprite flicker if you're playing on the original hardware. And like Cory said, there's also screen tearing. And while that may be helpful in some places, that slowdown might be useful to you. In the Cowabunga collection, you can actually turn that off in the settings option and give yourself
Oh,
a
that's
much
awesome.
smoother and a much cleaner kind of experience. But you're not really experiencing the game like it was played back in the early 90s.
You don't need that flicker. Trust me, everybody.
You don't.
need it.
Don't abuse yourself with purity's sake.
I did my first playthrough. I was like, all right, I want to try it just like it is or was, and it's not fun. I don't like that. It's not great. The slowdown was really bad. But that said, it's a fun game. I have a lot of nostalgia for it, not as much as Chris does apparently, but ultimately it's just a mindless beat 'em up. But I think it's well worth trying out this game if you're a fan of the genre, and especially if you're a Ninja Turtles fan. But all in all, I think it's okay. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just kind of middle of the road. Cory, what are your thoughts?
I'm of the same mind. So I think that, we talked about the visuals and the music and everything. It's a perfectly serviceable title. Konami does good work, so there's really nothing I can say about the product being bad. If you like side scrollers and you've never played this before, go ahead and play it, because I think there's a lot of variety in the bosses, and there's a lot of things that are interesting enough. And it's like a pretty popular IP where you can have fun playing through this. If you've played it before, or you're not particularly interested in the genre, like just skip it. There's nothing groundbreaking here that you need to see. We've seen it 2 times beforehand for the same console.
One time beforehand. The first Ninja Turtles game was not like the other two.
Well, it was the progenitor, so.
Yeah.
Chris.
Well, I absolutely love this game. I think it's a huge step up from Turtles 2, the arcade port. If you were only going to pick one or the other, I agree with what Sean and Cory were saying. Like there's nothing groundbreaking. It's just polished and refined. This was towards the end of the Nintendo life cycle, which I did not know, which explains why like it just plays better than older games. It is an improvement over the arcade port. The difficulty is definitely in mind for a game that was not made just to eat your quarters, so that's nice. It is a perfect transition between the arcade port, which was number 2, and then Turtles in Time. Like it is a nice little in between. You know, if you were lucky enough to have a Super Nintendo and didn't have that in between, then yeah, you may not feel like you're missing anything. But I got this game when it must have been fairly brand new, which was, looking back on it, like kudos to my mom. So I didn't get anything that new when I was a kid. So I love this game. If you're gonna pick just one to play to check out the Nintendo Ninja Turtle experience, I'd pick this one over the arcade or the first one. So
Well, you
I
know
love
what
it.
the arcade has that this one didn't have? It had a Pizza Hut collaborative sponsorship.
Yes.
I knew it was going to come out there somehow. With all that said, I think we kind of unanimously agree that it's a game that's worth checking out overall, but it's definitely not going to be something that people are rushing out to make sure that they have in their collection.
It is a game.
It is a game.
If you could go back to being 9 years old again, would you tell your buddies to rent it on the weekend from Blockbuster?
Yeah. If I didn't have a Super Nintendo,
I'd
Definitely.
tell them to play their age too.
if I had a Super Nintendo, I'd be like, bro, let's go get Turtles in Time.
Yeah, talking about this just makes me want to go play Turtles in Time right now. So that's probably what I'm going to do today.
I have the arcade cabinet right here.
Oh, man, that's so awesome.
Sean, what are we playing next?
Well, our next game is going to be something a little more unique in the genre and theme, and that's Little Nemo the Dream Master for the NES. And I don't know about you guys, but I mentioned to you there was an anime tie-in to it, so I'm going to be checking that out too. I've never watched it all the way, so I'm really excited about that. Both of you, thank you so much for playing this game and taking this time on this cold, wintry day. All of you out there, thank you so much for listening to us. We've been Superannuated Starman.
I could have sworn we did this one before.
We did not. We just talked about Turtles in Time.
Have we related to it at all? Because I remember talking about
Briefly.
Pizza Hut on the walls.
That was Turtles 2.
That was
There's no.
Turtles. We didn't do Turtles 2. But we talked about
No, we
Turtles
didn't.
2.
Did Turtles in Time have Pizza Hut on the wall?
We talked about
You sure we didn't do 2?
We talked about Turtles 2 because that is the port of the arcade. When we talk about Turtles in Time, we reference the arcade version a lot, which
We
got
are
us
talking
into-
about Turtles 2 today, correct?
No, Turtles 3.
Turtles 3.
Oh my god.
Did you play the wrong game?
I'm looking. No, I'm good. I had to pull up a YouTube to make sure I played the right game.
Oh my god. Okay.
Listen, man, I played this like a month ago, okay?
That's fair. I played it a while ago too.
Yeah.